Hello all and welcome to the presentation. So I'm beginning with an off topic today, but I believe that will motivate why we choose randomized algorithms or how in what cases we will choose randomized algorithms maybe. Okay. So yeah, let's start. So most of you might have seen in the hand sanitizer bottles the statement that it says like kills 99.9% of the germs, or it kills like 99.99% of the germs, right? These kind of statements you might have often seen in the hand sanitizer bottles, right? But usually we can't see kills 100% of germs written in the hand sanitizer bottles, right? I mean, normally what we'll see is return kills 99.9% or 99.99%. Kills 100% is not often seen. I don't know if it's there might be some hand tracers which kills 100% germs, maybe there might be. So anyway, so but this is what we normally see, right? Okay. And let's say we have both cases, and now suppose we have got a choice to make. Okay. And the choice A is we have a hand sanitizer which kills 99.99% of the germs, but the cost of it is 50 rupees. Okay. And let's say the choice B is we have hand sanitizer bottle which kills 100% of the germs, but its cost is 1000 rupees. Which one will you choose? Okay. So between choice A and choice B, what is your ideal choice? Okay. So of course, if cost is your concern, then you will definitely go for choice A, because choice A is cheaper, right? And it is killing almost all of the germs, right? Except for the 0.01 percentage. Okay. If we care so much about it, then we might not go for choice A. But if you are like fine, it's like if you are being optimistic, or let's say something like that, like if that this this won't harm us or something like that, if that's our case, and if the cost is concerned, of course we'll go for choice A. But if the cost is not an issue for us, right? Okay, let's we are rich, okay, and we can afford it, like we can afford it, and if you are the concern is about killing all germs, okay, so we in that case we go for choice B, right? But yeah, so again, so now what, the choice between whether to go for a deterministic algorithm or to go for a randomized algorithm also depends on what our concern is. Okay, so with this example, what my idea was to convey that depending on what our concern is, right, we will have some choices to go. And of course, deterministic algorithm is one choice. Okay, for a problem, we can go for a deterministic algorithm, or we can also go for a randomized algorithm, and depends on what our concern is. Okay, so if we are fine with a little error happening, okay, then of course we can choose to go for a randomized algorithm. Okay, so if the running time also it reduces, that's good, right? So then if the running time is our concern, let's say we have a problem with the deterministic algorithm have like more running time, and if suppose if you are fine with a little error happening, and if the running time is reducing way nicely in the randomized algorithm setting, then we can go for randomized algorithm if the running time is one factor that we are concerned about, right? Of course, yeah. And if we can achieve with high success probability what we want to achieve, and if the running time is less, right, compared to, yeah, what if we had opted for a deterministic algorithm, whatever the running time, and if the running time is lesser than that, and if we achieve the correctness with high success probability, then we can choose randomized algorithm. In that case, we can go for it, right? So it depends on what our concern is, right? And if in most of the cases with high success probability means almost 99 point whatever number you say, you can achieve that success probability. Okay, so that is the case. But again, saying that, I have said that randomized algorithm makes error. Okay, that might not be the case, because every randomized algorithm doesn't make error. There are randomized algorithms which always return the correct answers. Okay, and those types of randomized algorithms are called Las Vegas algorithms. Okay, where the success is guaranteed, whatever the output of that algorithm is correct. Okay, so for example, randomized quicksort. Randomized quicksort is an example for a Las Vegas algorithm, as it always outputs the sorted array, right? And but in these algorithms, the running time is not fixed. It's a random variable. Okay, it depends on the random choices that the algorithm makes. All right. So, and the other type of algorithms, randomized algorithms, which makes error. Okay, where we can only say with high success probability the output is correct. In that kind of algorithms are called Monte Carlo algorithms, where the running time is fixed. It's not a random variable, but algorithm can make error. Okay. So, okay. Yeah. So let's start with the randomized algorithm for the satisfiability problem. Okay, what is satisfiability problem? So the question is that given a Boolean formula, whether that Boolean formula is satisfiable or not. So this Boolean formula has n variables. Okay, let's say x1 to xn, and so when a Boolean formula will be satisfiable, it will be satisfiable when there exists an assignment to all of these n variables such that the formula evaluates to true. Okay, now the question is whether there exists an assignment, okay, such that the formula will evaluate to true. If there exists at least one assignment, then we say that the Boolean formula is satisfiable, right? So now this is a problem. Okay, this is a decision problem that we are interested in, and how can we design a randomized algorithm here? So the very simple idea, what that will be. So let's pick. So what will be the randomness here? Because there are n variables, right? And let's pick a random assignment, right? Meaning that there are n variables, so each of the xi's. Okay, so let's start with the variable x1. X1 we can choose to be either 1 or 0 with equal probability. Okay, similarly for each of the xi's. Okay, so there are totally 2 raised to n assignments possible, right? And we are picking one random assignment that we can do by selecting we'll select one variable. I mean, there are n variables, so at each variable xi we can flip a coin, right? And if it's head, let's say we assign the value 1, and if it tails, we assign the value 0. If that is the case, and then we do this for n variables, and now we got the random assignment, right? So that random assignment is one assignment out of the 2 raised to n possible assignments. Okay, and now what we'll do is, now we have an assignment for each of the n variables. Now substitute that in the Boolean formula and check whether the formula evaluates to true or not. Now if the formula is evaluating to true, conclude or output that the formula is satisfiable. If not, output that the formula is not satisfiable. This is a very simple randomized algorithm. Okay, so now when the given formula 5 is satisfiable, okay, in that case, what is the probability of success? Meaning that, so what is the probability that our algorithm concludes that the given Boolean formula is satisfiable? So it has to pick. So when I say that the given formula is satisfiable, it means that there can be at least, there is at least one assignment to which it evaluates to true. That is sure, but there can be more than one. So we can definitely say that there is at least one random assignment to which the formula evaluates to true. Okay, so the probability that the algorithm concludes that the given Boolean formula is satisfiable is at least 1 by 2 raised to n. So it's at least 1 by 2 raised to n. Okay, so obviously we can observe that the success probability is not that great here. Okay, and we are interested in very high success probability, right? When we are choosing for a randomized algorithm, we obviously want the success probability to be very large, right? So definitely this is not sufficient. And another thing that you can observe is that this is a one-sided error randomized algorithm. So when I say one-sided error randomized algorithm, what I mean is that, so when the given instance is a yes instance, okay, so the yes instance and no instance means the question is whether the given formula 5 belongs to satisfiability problem or not, right? So if it is satisfiable, then that means that the given instance is a yes instance, and if the given Boolean formula is not satisfiable, it means that it's a no instance. Okay, so there are yes instances as well as no instances. So if in a yes instance, okay, so what is happening here is that if a yes instance is given, is the algorithm always outputting the correct answer? No, right? Means it depends on the random choice there. So it can correctly output, or it might not also correctly output, because if the assignment chosen was not the assignment in which the Boolean formula evaluated to true, then it will always conclude that it is not it's not satisfiable, right? So the error is possible when the yes instance is given. But what if a no instance is given? Meaning that if a formula is given and if that is not satisfiable, is there an error possible there? Meaning that when the instance is given, that the given Boolean formula is not satisfiable. When that is not satisfiable, there is no chance the algorithm is going to say this formula is satisfiable. It won't say. It will only say that the formula is not satisfiable, because any random assignment it picks, it is not going to evaluate to true, right? So it's not going to give an error when the no instance is given. Okay, only when the yes instance is given, there is a chance for error. And so these are the two sides, right? So that's why this is called one-sided error algorithm, because only in one side, that means only in the yes instance here, there is a chance for error, not in the no instance. In no instance, the randomized algorithm will always output correct answer. Okay, so that's why this kind of algorithm is called a one-sided error randomized algorithm. Okay, now next we will see how can we increase the success probability of this algorithm. Okay, so now we have seen a one-sided error randomized algorithm, right? So it is one-sided error randomized algorithm, as only when the instance given is a yes instance, the algorithm can make error, right? And where the probability of success is at least 1 by 2 raised to n, and the probability of error is at most 1 minus 1 by 2 raised to n. So the success here means that when the yes instance is given, the algorithm correctly outputting the formula as satisfiable formula. Okay, that's what the success means. Okay, because it's one-sided error algorithm, or like we can say when the no instance is given to the algorithm is going to be a success. Okay, so now the probability of the success and error what we are discussing is going to come only when the yes instance is given. Okay, so that you need to take care, means keep in mind. Okay, so the error here is when the yes instance is given, the algorithm incorrectly outputting the satisfiable formula as not satisfiable. Okay, yes, okay, and when no instance is given, we know that probability of success is 1 and probability of error is 0, because it's a one-sided error. And when the no instance is given, this algorithm is going to correctly say that it is not satisfiable, because it is not going to find any satisfying assignment, right? It is not going to find any assignment that makes the formula true. Okay, now yes, now you see the success probability, right? It is at least 1 by 2 raised to n. Of course, we cannot say more than that in general case. For some instances, if you know there are more than one assignments which makes the formula true, you can say particularly maybe. But in general case, we can only say it's at least 1 by 2 raised to n. Okay, yeah, so how can we increase the success probability? So this is a randomized algorithm which is like not an ideal algorithm, because the probability of success is very like inverse exponential, right? So it's not an ideal algorithm, but can we increase the success probability? Okay, can we increase somehow? Yes, the idea is to repeat the basic algorithm that we have said. Okay, let's say we repeat it r times. Okay, r we can fix later. Okay, we will fix later. So let's say we repeat it r times. Now we are repeating it independently. Okay, so the independent trials of the basic algorithm that we are doing. So in each of the trial, algorithm is going to output yes or no. That means either algorithm will accept or not accept, right? When the algorithm is outputting yes, it means that it's satisfiable. When the algorithm is outputting no, it means that it's not satisfiable, right? And our algorithm has false positives or false negatives. False positive means it is reporting as yes, that means it is reporting as satisfiable, but it is not satisfiable. That's what the false positive means. False negative means it is reporting as no, not satisfiable, but it's actually satisfiable. Okay. So what do you think our algorithm will report? I mean, they will report false positives or false negatives, or it won't report both? Yes, false negatives is possible, right? Because false positives is not possible, because if the algorithm is reporting yes, or the algorithm is reporting the formula as satisfiable, that means it must have found an assignment which makes the formula true. So there is no way our algorithm is going to report false positives. Only false negatives it can say, because false negatives can come because the algorithm might not even get it's randomly generating an assignment, right? So if suppose the assignment that makes the actual formula true, if it's not uh, randomly selecting that assignment, then of course it can evaluate to false, right? But the formula might be satisfiable. So the false negatives are possible. Only false negatives it can say, not false positives. So after repeating it r times, what we are going to do is the final algorithm. In the final algorithm, what we are going to do is if there is at least one yes reported by any of the algorithm in R trials, okay, in at least one time, if any algorithm accepted or it outputs yes, okay, in that case our final algorithm is going to say that yes, it is satisfiable. Otherwise, if none of the trials outputted yes, that means all of the trials are outputting no, it's not satisfiable, then okay, we are going with the answer no only. Okay, and we are going to say that okay, it's not satisfiable. If at least one yes occurred, then we are going to say that yeah, it's satisfiable. Otherwise, no, it's not satisfiable. That's the final algorithm. Okay, now we have our final algorithm. Now we can estimate, we can analyze it, right? What is error probability? Okay, and when we talk about error probability, okay, now we can analyze when the error will happen. Okay, so the error will happen only when in all of the R trials a satisfiable formula gets incorrectly reported as not satisfiable. So given a satisfiable formula, okay, if the instance is a yes instance, right, and when in all of the R trials it is incorrectly reported as not satisfiable, then error is going to happen. Then our final algorithm is going to report it as not satisfiable. What is the probability of that happening? Okay, we can take into the consideration that all of the R trials are happening independently, right? We are repeating it independently, and we can multiply the probabilities in one trial. One trial, the probability of error is at most 1 minus 1 by 2 raised to n, and hence the probability of error after R trials is going to be at most 1 minus 1 by 2 raised to n whole raised to r. Okay, now we can actually bound it by another inequality that we know, that is 1 minus x is at most e raised to minus x, right? So that inequality we'll use, and we can bound 1 minus 1 by 2 raised to n whole raised to r as at most e raised to minus r by 2 raised to n. Okay, so now what we need is, this is the error probability that we have bounded, right? Now it's our requirement, right? If we want, suppose if we want our algorithm to have error probability only 1%, like 99% it should be success, then we are fine. In that case our error probability is 1 by 100, and now let's say we equate the error probability that we have got, e raised to minus r by 2 raised to n, to 1 by 100. Okay, and from that we can get the value of r. The r is the number of trials that we have not fixed. When we began, we just told that we are repeating r times, but we did not fix it, right? Now we can fix it based on our requirement of the success probability or error probability, right? So now let's equate it this way. 1 by e raised to r by 2 raised to n is 1 by 100, which implies e raised to r by 2 raised to n equal to 100, and which implies we'll take logarithm to the base e on both sides, right? And we get r by 2 raised to n equal to ln 100, and which implies r equal to 2 raised to n into ln 100, which means that we have to repeat it exponentially many times, right, to get our success probability to be 99%, right? But yes, it's an exponential algorithm, and still we are getting only 99%. In this case, actually we could have used our deterministic algorithm only, right? That for the naive algorithm, right, that we can actually look for all possible assignments and whether we can check whether it's evaluating true or not. In that case, we will anyway get that whether the formula is satisfied or not. It's because SAT is anyway belonging to the exponential class, right? Okay, complexity class. So this is actually of no use because the probability, why it is of no use, because the probability of success was inverse exponential here in this case, right? But somehow, so we'll have to have some uses with the randomized algorithm, and if what should be our ideal probability of success of the basic algorithm, so that even after repeating we can get nice success probabilities with, I mean, not huge running time, right? So what if there are instances of the satisfiability problem which have more assignments which evaluate to true? Of course. So the thing is that in general we can only say at least 1 by 2 raised to n, but there can be instances of SAT, right, which have more assignments. For a satisfiable formula, it might have more assignments evaluating to true, and in that case, if for that particular instance the probability of success is going to be more than 1 by 2 raised to n, and it might be a good number, okay. It might be a nice probability. So let's say if the probability of success was at least 1 by n raised to k, I mean, if instead of inverse exponential, if it was inverse polynomial, if the probability of success was inverse polynomial, what will happen? Is this good enough so that we can repeat it more times and get nice success probability and with not great running time and all, means not huge running time and all? Let's see if that is possible. So now let's analyze the success probability here after repeating this algorithm r times. Now let's say the basic algorithm have somehow the probability of success to be at least 1 by n raised to k. Okay, is this good enough? So that even after repeating, let's say, only polynomial number of times, we get high success probability. Will it be? Then it will be good, but let's see if it happens or not. Okay. Yeah, so the probability of success is at least 1 by n raised to k, and the probability of error is at most 1 by 1 minus 1 by n raised to k. That is in one trial. After r trials, okay, the probability of error is going to be, of course, at most 1 minus 1 by n raised to k whole raised to r, as we have discussed, right? Because r trials are happening independently and we can multiply, and that's when error is happening only when in all of the r trials no is reported for a yes instance, right? Yeah. So again we are using the inequality to bound the error probability, that is now 1 minus 1 by n raised to k whole raised to r is at most e raised to minus r by n raised to k. And again, now it depends on whatever concern about the error probability. If you want our error probability, if you are fine with 1% error, let's say we can equate it, right? So e raised to minus r by n raised to k equal to 1 by 100, okay, which implies that 1 by e raised to r by n raised to k equal to 1 by 100, which implies e raised to r by n raised to k equal to 100, okay, and which implies that r by n raised to k equal to ln 100, which implies r equal to n raised to k ln 100. So here we got that we only have to repeat polynomial number of times and still we got our required success probability. It is way better than the exponential algorithm, right? So the naive algorithm for the satisfiability problem was the exponential time algorithm, right? And here we got a polynomial time algorithm, okay, and we got our required success probability. So whatever number we want as the error probability here, right, we can get the success probability or the required error probability with polynomial number of times repeating. Okay, so here the probability of success was at least 1 by n raised to k, right? So this is when some of any instance have the success probability at least 1 by n raised to k. Okay, so for nice instances that this can happen, if this is happening, then it's fine. Okay, so this discussion, okay, will lead to a complexity class called RP. So now we are going to discuss about the randomized complexity classes. Okay, so yeah, so RP stands for randomized polynomial time algorithm. Okay, it is one of the randomized complexity class. So the randomized complexity classes are related to the randomized algorithms, right? Okay, so RP is a set of all decision problems which have polynomial time randomized algorithm. So yeah, when the S instance of the problem is given, then the probability that the algorithm accepts is at least 1 by 2. And when the no instance of the problem is given, then the probability that the algorithm accepts is going to be 0, which means that when a no instance is given, definitely the algorithm is going to reject. Okay, when we say that the probability of algorithm accepts is 0, which means that the probability that algorithm rejects is 1. Okay, so it is a one-sided error. It is a complexity class for one-sided error algorithm where there is not going to be false positives. Okay, whenever the algorithm is reporting yes, that means it is going to be correct. There is no false negative here. No, sorry, there is no false positive here. Okay, in RP there is no false positive, only false negative can happen. Okay, so yeah, now this at least half here. So the when a S instance is given, it is said in the definition that the probability that the algorithm is going to accept is at least half. Okay, when I say the algorithm means it is a randomized polynomial time algorithm. Okay, and this at least half can be replaced by any constant. Okay, at least 1 by 10 or even inverse polynomial. Even if the probability of the algorithm accepting is at least, that means the success probability is, even if it's at least 1 by n raised to k, we can get required nice success probability even after repeating also, that we have seen right before. So inverse polynomial case we have seen before, and it can be even any small constant at least. Okay, anything is fine. Yeah, so the at least any constant is fine or inverse polynomial is fine, we can get nice bounds. This at least half can be replaced by very big number also. Okay, very close to 1 we can get. Okay, that is also fine, you can try it out how we can do that. So anyway, this with inverse polynomial we have seen that right now. Yeah, so when we have this algorithm, RP algorithm, yeah, amplification of success probability of an RP algorithm, we have seen that before, but let's say it in general. Okay, so whatever basic algorithm you have, okay, when you repeat it polynomial number of times, okay, the number of times is actually we can determine based on our requirement for the success probability and all. Okay, so some polynomial number of times, right? And if any yes answer found in any of the trials, output yes, else output no. Okay, because RP algorithm only has false negatives and no false positives. Okay, it's a one-sided error randomized algorithm. So that's about the RP and success probability amplification of RP complexity class. Now co-RP complexity class, what is that? So a decision problem, we can say it is in co-RP if the complement of that problem is in RP. Okay, yes. So we have seen the definition of the condition of the RP algorithm, right? So similar to that we have for co-RP also. We can say that a decision problem is in co-RP if there exists a polynomial time randomized algorithm such that when a S instance of the problem is given, the probability that the algorithm accepts is 1. Okay, so it is always success when the S instance is given. It is like exactly the opposite of RP, right? Because in RP, when the no instance was given, algorithm is always a success because the algorithm will always correctly output when the no instance is given. means correctly output that, it is a no instance. I mean, it's not satisfiable, or like it depends on what is the problem. Okay. Yes. So here in CoRP, when the S instance is given, the probability that the algorithm accepts is 1. Okay. So it's success when the S instance is given. Okay. The error can happen only when the no instance is given. No instance of the problem given, the probability that the algorithm accepts is at most half. Okay. So the error can happen only when the no instance of the problem is given. Okay. In that case, by standard definition, it is given that the probability of the algorithm accepts is at most 1 by 2. But as we have seen in the case of RP also, this at most half can be even replaced with at most 1 minus 1 by n raised to k. Okay. So the error can be even so close to 1. Okay, so in contrast to RP, in CoRP, we only have false positives. Okay, so there is no false negative here. Okay, so a CoRP algorithm is also a one-sided error randomized algorithm, right? So where the error can happen when a no instance is given, right? Because in the S instance, this CoRP algorithm always output correctly. Error can happen only on the no instances. Okay. Yeah. So now let's discuss the amplification of success probability of a co-RP algorithm. It is like similar to what we have seen for an RP algorithm. Basically, we first of all we have to repeat the basic algorithm, right? And polynomial number of times only. But how many, that depends on our requirement for the success probability or the error probability, right? And if in any of the trials a no is reported by an algorithm, then we output no, else we output yes, because here no is very important, right? So if at least one no occurred, then we are fine. We have to output no, because it is going to be correct, right? There is only going to be false positives, right? Corp algorithm only have false positives rather than having false negatives in an RP algorithm. So in Corp no false negatives, only false positives. Okay. So yeah, that is about the amplification of success probability of a Corp algorithm. Okay. Okay, and so now so far we have seen only one-sided error randomized algorithms and their success probability amplification, right? So we have seen RP complexity class and co-RP complexity class, right? Now we will see two-sided error randomized algorithms complexity classes, and yeah. So the two side, when we say that a randomized algorithm is having a two-sided error, it means that in the both cases, in the yes instance of the problem as well as in the no instance of the problem, error can happen. When a yes instance is given, the algorithm can incorrectly output as no, or when a no instance is given, the algorithm can incorrectly output as yes. So both can happen. Both errors are possible. In that case, we say that the randomized algorithm is a two-sided error randomized algorithm. Okay. So yeah, we'll see the complexity class related to this type of algorithms and how to do the success probability amplification there. Okay. Or is it going to be similar to that of RP and co-RP or not? We'll see. So the complexity class related to two-sided or randomized algorithm is called BPP. BPP stands for Bounded Error Probabilistic Polynomial Time Algorithm. So yeah, let's see the definition of the complexity class BPP. So BPP stands for Bounded Error Probabilistic Polynomial Time. Okay, and it is a set of all decision problems for which there exists a probabilistic polynomial time algorithm or the randomized polynomial time algorithm such that when the S instance of the problem is given, the probability that the algorithm accepts is at least 2 by 3. Okay, and when the no instance of the problem is given, the probability that the algorithm accepts is at most 1 by 3. Okay, so as we can see, the error is possible on both sides of the problem. Error can happen when a yes instance of the problem is given, also when the no instance of the problem is given. That's why it's a two-sided error randomized algorithm. Okay, and we are going to see that instead of 2 by 3, we can actually replace it with 3 by 4, and 1 by 3 could be replaced with 1 by 4. It's still going to be fine. And so what we are going to say is that, I mean, still the problem will be in class BPP, of course. So the important thing here is that, so it cannot be like, one thing to observe here is that when the yes instance of the problem is given, if the probability of algorithm success is at least half, and when the no instance of the problem is given, and then the probability of success is at most half, that is not an ideal thing, right? Because in that case there is no gap between them. Okay, when it is both half, that means that there is no gap between them, right? So the thing is that then the input doesn't matter basically. So when there is no gap, so we don't look at the input at all. Like, we can actually flip a coin, right? And we can decide whether to accept or reject without even looking at the input, right? Because we have the condition like that. We can accept with at least half probability, and when the no instance is given, we can accept with at most half. So if both are half, right, it's not so useful, right? I mean, it's not so useful that without even looking at the input, we'll meet our conditions here. Okay, so that is of no use. So the gap here is very important. Okay, so important thing here in the definition of class BPP is that there is a gap between the probabilities. Okay, now the one question is, how much can we move around between the numbers 2 by 3 and 1 by 3? Okay, that we can see. Okay, how much can we increase? So the in the yes when the yes instance is given, the probability of success is at least 2 by 3, right? Can we increase it? Or even if the probability of success was very less, at least some constant, is it still fine? Okay, that we can amplify it and get nice bound and still be in polynomial time, then we are done, then we are fine, right? So we can see how much can we move around between the numbers 2 by 3 and 1 by 3. So it turns out that the gap only need to be inverse polynomial from half. So basically, when the yes instance is given, the probability that the algorithm accepts if it's at least half plus 1 by polynomial in the length of input. Okay, and for no instance, the probability of the algorithm accepts is less than 1 by 2 minus 1 by polynomial in the length of input, then that is fine. Okay, so that's what it says. So basically, the gap here is 1 by basically inverse polynomial, right? Okay, so for this is small gap. Even this gap, with this much gap, we can achieve very high gap, or like basically very high success probability. That's what it says, by repeating only polynomial number of times. Then only it will be in BPP, right? Because BPP stands for bounded error probabilistic polynomial time. Okay, so that's important. So the success probability should be at least such that we can repeat it many number of times. That many number of times is polynomial number of times, and still get nice success probability. Okay, yeah. So here when we say that the gap is inverse polynomial, means in the probability between 0 and 1, we can see that the reject and accept, we have this small gap. But what we are going to say that we can move this gap to very big gap, such that the error probability will be very small. Okay, it's like inverse polynomial kind of, not inverse polynomial, it's inverse exponential. That error probability we can reach from this. Okay, that is from the probability that the algorithm access is at least half plus 1 by inverse polynomial for yes instance, to that we can actually move to the probability that the algorithm accepts is at least 1 minus 1 by 2 raised to length of input raised to, I mean basically 2 raised to some polynomial in the length of input. Okay, we can move like that by amplifying the success probability. And basically we are repeating only, but is it similar to how we did for RP and Corby? We will see. The main thing is that by only running polynomial number of times, we can achieve this success probability. Okay, and we can prove this. So how we will prove it, and what can we do to increase success probability is a question, right? So here we cannot do like what we did for RP and co-RP, because there is definitely possibility for both false negatives and false positives here. We cannot say if one no occurs, then we are outputting no, or if one no yes occurs, we are outputting yes. We can't say like that, because here there is possibility for both false negatives and false positives. So you can think of an idea right here. Yeah. So hence the idea used for the amplification of success probability for one-sided error randomized algorithms will not work here. What can we do? Of course, step 1 is always to run the basic algorithm r times, or we can fix it. Anyway, it's polynomial that we know, but we have to prove it anyway. So there are independent R trials happening. That is same as one-sided case. Okay. What is step 2? Step 2 is important. You can think about it for a moment. So at each trial, algorithm would have either accepted the input or rejected, right? So it would have outputted yes or no, right? At each of the trials. So basically, we can take the majority vote. What is the majority output of in the R trials, right? We will get R outputs from the algorithms. What is the majority in that? You go with that. Okay. If accepts are more, that means if the yes answer is more, then more than half. Basically, more means the majority means it's actually more than half. Okay. So if accepts are more than half, then okay, then algorithm is going to accept or basically say yes. Okay. Or else algorithm is going to reject or say no. That is the final algorithm. Okay. So this is how we repeat, and we have to analyze it. Okay. Now we have to analyze the algorithm. Yeah, so we have a basic algorithm, let's say A, where for a S instance X, probability that the algorithm A accepts X is at least half plus 1 by length of input raised to C, or we can actually write it as half plus epsilon. Okay, and for a no instance, the probability that the algorithm accepts the input X is at most 1 by 2 minus 1 by inverse polynomial basically, and we can write it as 1 by 2 minus epsilon. Okay, where epsilon is 1 by length of x raised to c. Okay, so we have this 1 by 2 plus epsilon and 1 by 2 minus epsilon. Okay, now yeah, so the algorithm A is the basic algorithm and it outputs. So basically we can think of the algorithm A flipping a biased coin, right? So in the sense that it's actually so of course when the S instance is given, let's say, we can think of the algorithm A flipping a biased coin. Okay, so meaning that the output heads, the coin will output heads with probability at least 1 by 2 plus epsilon, and tails with less than 1 by 2 minus epsilon. Okay, so yeah, so the basic algorithm will output heads, or we can relate the heads with 1 or accept. Okay, heads means the algorithm accepts and tails means algorithm reject. Okay, in that way we can see. So it basically outputs heads, that means 1 or yes or accept with whatever with probability at least 1 by 2 plus epsilon, and outputs tails or 0, that means the algorithm reject with probability at most 1 by 2 minus epsilon. And we are repeating A R times and taking the majority vote, right? That is our new algorithm A prime. Okay, now when can error happen? Okay, so error possibilities when a S instance is given to the algorithm A prime after repeating R times. Okay, so after repeating it R times, now the algorithm A is repeated R times, right? And can you say about the expected number of heads or accepts? So basically number of heads or accepts is a random variable, and we can count the expected number of heads or accepts, right? That is going to be at least R into 1 by 2 plus epsilon, because for each of them success probability is at least half plus epsilon, and there are R of them. So expected number of heads or accepts is going to be at least R into 1 by 2 plus epsilon, right? Yeah. So error can happen. We are going to see when the error can happen, right? So when a S instance is given to the algorithm A prime, and when we repeat the algorithm A prime is such that it is going to repeat the algorithm A R times. and if the majority vote is not yes, then error is going to happen. Means basically yes means corresponds to head, right? In each of the trial, head appearing. And if basically the number of heads appearing is less than r by 2, right, less than or equal to r by 2, then error can happen, right? So in that case we loses the majority vote, right? So the majority is, when the majority is lost, we can say the error will happen. So the error, what is the probability of that happening? That means the bad event that we are interested in is the number of heads less than or equal to r by 2. Okay, let's call that as event E, that is our bad event. Okay, and let's define our indicator random variables in this way: x1 to xr. Okay, such that xi equal to 1 with probability at least 1 by 2 plus epsilon, and equal to 0 with probability at most 1 by 2 minus epsilon. So what it indicates is that in the ith trial, algorithm accepted or not. Okay, what is the result in the ith trial? That's what the indicator random variable xi indicates. Okay, and we can define another random variable x as a summation of these xi's, right? So x will say which is a majority, right? Because if x is greater than or equal to, I mean, if x is greater than r by 2, then definitely the majority has accepted. Okay, and if x is less than or equal to r by 2, that means that majority has rejected. Okay, so the event E can be rewritten as x less than or equal to r by 2. That is a bad event, and we want to just bound the probability of E, right? And for that we are going to use the Chernoff bound here. Okay, Chernoff bound, we will not prove the Chernoff bound here, but we'll just state the theorem that it says. Okay, so let x1 to xr be independent Bernoulli random variables or indicator random variables, each having probability, let's say q, which is greater than half of being equal to 1. Okay, so basically they are indicator random variables, so they will take either 1 or 0 as value, and if the probability of each of them is greater than half of being equal to 1, then we can say that the probability that the summation of xi's, okay, is less than or equal to r by 2 floor is at most inverse exponential, right? E raised to minus r by 2 q into q minus 1 by 2 whole square. Okay, so this is the Chernoff bound, and whatever conditions we have, it will apply, because each of our indicator random variable, like taking value 1 is greater than half probability, and right, and the summation is less than or equal to r by 2 is what we need to find also. That is our bad event, right? And in our case we can see that probability of E is at most, we can substitute our values, basically that's it. Okay, just substitute the values that only I am doing. Okay, and finally we will get the probability of E is at most e raised to minus r epsilon square by 1 plus 2 epsilon. Okay, that is the error probability that we got, that we have bounded it that way. But, and let's say we wanted our error probability to be inverse exponential, right? We have said that initially that we can move from small gap to this very high success probability, right? So the error probability is very less, it's like inverse exponential, we can get that. And now we can just equate it, as we have seen earlier also. We have error probability bounded and we want our requirement, so we can just equate it, right? So it's just, we are equating that, and we can see what should be r, the value of r. Okay, so it's normally what we do, so we'll get r as ln of 2 raised to length of x raised to d into 1 plus 2 epsilon by epsilon square, and we can get length of x raised to d outside and into ln 2 into 1 plus 2 epsilon by epsilon square, everything. So basically it's polynomial number of times, right? Did you see that? Yeah, so that's how we proved it. Okay, and we are repeating only polynomial number of times the basic algorithm, and hence we are getting the nice success probability, or very low error probability, right? Both way we can say. And because we run it only polynomial times, and it's in polynomial time running algorithm, and it's in BPP. Okay, so both the definitions, the small gap definition, that yes instance means probability algorithm accepts at least half plus inverse polynomial, or when no instance is given, probability of algorithm accepts is at most 1 by 2 minus inverse polynomial. There we had only small gap, right, to distinguish between the case, right? So that could be amplified to such nice numbers, right, and still be in class BPP because it's still running in polynomial time. So 2 by 3, 1 by 3 is like regular definition or the standard definition of BPP. Okay, and that can be amplified even if it's small gap, that can be amplified. So all are actually equivalent. Okay, so yeah, so that's about the success probability amplification of BPP, right? Okay, now let's prove some relationships between the randomized complexity classes that we have seen. Okay, so we will see that the first claim that we are going to make is that RP is a subset of BPP. Okay, we can recall what RP and BPP is, right? So when a S instance is given, the probability of the algorithm accepts is at least 2 by 3 in BPP, and no instance is given, the probability that algorithm accepts is at most 1 by 3 in BPP, and in RP the numbers are at least half and equal to 0, right? Yeah, so with these numbers in hand, can we see that whether RP is subset of BPP and all? So any RP algorithm you take, it is also a BPP algorithm. Can you see that? So here in the definition we can see that this is a standard definition of RP and BPP. Yeah, we know that. So here 0 is fine because we can see that in the condition of BPP, it is saying that when the no instance is given, the probability of the algorithm accepts is at most 1 by 3, right? So 0 is anyway less than 1 by 3, right? So any RP algorithm, when the no instance is that part, we have the BPP condition is met, right? So we can say in that case it's fine. Now what about when a S instance is given? In the RP case it is at least 1 by 2, right? And in the BPP case it is at least 2 by 3. Okay, so we can't say that 1 by 2 is greater than, so any RP algorithm we have to say that this is also a BPP algorithm. So we have an RP algorithm, let's say, and it is having success probability half, maybe. Okay, so this is at least half, so let's say we have a success probability as half, but BPP has at least 2 by 3, right? So to include that algorithm to be a part of BPP is difficult to say currently, right? Because with this number, so what we can do is we will repeat the RP algorithm that we have, let's say 2 times. Okay, and if any S is found in these trials, we output yes and else output no. Basically just amplifying the success probability by repeating it 2 times, the normal success probability amplification of RP algorithm we do, and make the probability of success at least 3 by 4 here. Okay, so this at least half will become at least 3 by 4 now after repeating it some number of times, and still it is in class RP. Okay, so as we have said, this at least half is just a standard definition. We can make it any number, right? Because according to our requirements, and bounding the running time to be polynomial. Okay, so at least 3 by 4 is possible, and of course when it is at least 3 by 4, it is definitely greater than 2 by 3, right? And we have met the condition for BPP, and we can say that this RP algorithm is a part of BPP algorithm, and this is for any arbitrary RP algorithm, and hence we can say that RP is subset of BPP, right? Yeah, and in a similar manner we can also see that co-RP is subset of BPP, right? We can see that when a S instance is given, the probability that algorithm accepts is at least 2 by 3 in BPP, where it is equal to 1 in co-RP. When a no instance is given, probability algorithm accepts at most 1 by 3 in BPP, where it is at most half in co-RP. Okay, now we have to prove that co-RP is subset of BPP. Any co-RP algorithm you take, it should be a BPP algorithm also, basically, right? So now what we can do is, okay, so one thing we can note is that when a S instance is given, co-RP algorithm is having 1 probability, right? So which is definitely greater than 2 by 3. So this number is fine. This number is fine, and in that case, we have met the condition for the BPP algorithm, right? Now the problem is coming in the standard definition when the no instance is given, right? Because in this case it's at most half here for CoRP and it's at most 1/3 for BPP, right? And so 1/2 is not less than 1/3. If there is a 1/2 CoRP algorithm, we can say that it's less than 1/3 and we can meet the condition of BPP. But again, we can do the amplification of the success probability, right? As we did in RP case. So because these numbers is just a standard definition to use this number, like I mean it can be amplified, right, with polynomial number of times repeating and whatever success probability we can get that. Okay, so we can make the success probability to be at least 3/4 and all here, and we can get the error probability as at most 1/4. Okay, so at most 1/2 is can be replaced with at most 1/4, and now 1/4 is less than 1/3, right? So now it's meeting the BPP condition. So any arbitrary CoRP algorithm is a BPP algorithm also, and hence we can say that CoRP is a subset of BPP. Okay. So